What's the best you FK'd with the wrong person moment you ever seen? Buzz Aldrin punching the moon landing denier in the face. Mid-40s drunk and belligerent male sitting at a bus stop. Another male in his late 70s was also sitting at the bus stop. Drunk male got up and slugged the old man. The old man then beat the crap out the drunk guy and held him on the ground until police showed up. Turns out the old man was a retired police hand-to-hand combat defense instructor and had multiple black belts in karate and judo. Drunk guy was messed up and spent the night in jail. At a work party, my boss daughter, Ax, 4 or 5 years old, found a group of us and invited us to play Uno. He had laid out all of the cards and set hands out for each of us. How do you say no to that? We all took our seats and one of my co-workers was kind of condescending to the girl. My co-worker was asking if the girl knew how to count and how adorable it was that she wanted to play a game with the big kids. I forget exactly what she said, but her implication was essentially how funny it was a child wanted to play against adults in a game she couldn't possibly win. Yeah. So, the little girl had stacked her hand with all of the draw 4 cards and was sitting right next to my condescending coworker. The game only lasted for a few minutes, and this child unleashed relentless Uno fury on my coworker with every card until the game was over. She smiled and had some kind of innocent but devious comment about how that was fun. It was so satisfying. This was a personally highly gratifying incident. My brother was supposed to meet me for dinner after work, so I was waiting outside a store for him to show up. I was in a by lane with not too many cars, just a few people on foot. I was busy texting someone when this guy on a bicycle swerved close to where I stood and started making disgusting smooch noises. I barely had the time to register what was happening when I suddenly see my 6'2", broad-shouldered brother grab the bicycle by the handles and push it towards the sidewalk. His face was pure fury and I don't think I have ever seen him that angry. He pretty much lifted the guy off the ground from his collar and made him apologize to me. That quiver in his voice and that pleading tone in comparison to the shitty arrogance that he had displayed just seconds ago. It was everything. I grew up in a pretty shaky neighborhood. Lots of drugs, prostitutes, petty criminals. My older brother and I were in high school at the time and we would get home before my parents. For about a week, a man in a truck was sitting outside of our house at the same time every day when we got home. Like he was waiting for us. Just sitting in the driver's seat. Not looking at us or talking to us. Just sitting there. It was really creepy but we just ignored him and went inside. My mom knew this was going on but he was always gone by the time she came home. One day, he was still there when she got home. Big mistake. Mama Bear came out. She went up to the truck, pounded on his window, and started screaming at him to get the FCK away from her house and if she ever sees him there again she's going to kill him. My mom is 5'1" but pure fury. Not someone to FCK with. We never saw him again. Turns out he was stalking his ex-girlfriend, our neighbor. Your mom might have saved your neighbor's life. Back in college, we had an issue with muggings on campus. And between campus and Greek Street. It went on for a few months. All relatively late at night. Without the individuals being caught. Increased police and security patrols didn't seem to stop them. One night, I was staying up late in the commons of the dorm studying. And my floor mate came home. Drunk. And covered in blood spatter. I remember being alarmed and asked if he was okay. He just said that none of the blood was his. But he thinks he may have just sent the muggers to the hospital. But he was going to bed. No FCKS given. Floor mate was a bodybuilder. News said the 3 suspected muggers ended up in the ER. With broken nose. And broken collarbone. Dude at the club was being really creepy towards a group of girls that were just trying to hang out and have a good time. Eventually he slaps or grabs, I couldn't really see, one of the girls on the ass and she turned around with the devil in her eyes. He physically cowered and she just slapped him across the face and knocked him into a booth. He got thrown out by a bouncer about an hour later as I heard he was groping multiple women. I was in high school and had just broken up with a guy. My dad picked me up from work and as we were driving home my ex was sending me paragraphs of pretty graphic hate and I started to cry. I told my dad what was going on and of course he became visibly upset. Just our luck. At that moment we passed my ex's car at a gas station. My dad pulled in and told me to wait in the car. He never told me exactly what happened but all I saw was my dad walk in. My ex got all in his face. And my dad grabbed him by the neck with one hand and sent him flying to the other side of the store without much force. Didn't hear from my ex much after that. State football championship in Georgia in 2001 for 5A schools. There was bad blood between my school and our opponent over the season opener for weird reasons that would bore you. The mascots are hyping up the stands and both are in the middle of the field. The weather was wet. And the field was already getting soggy. Their mascot gets chippy and pushes ours. Usually the mascot is some dorky kid. Right? Not at our school. Not that year. That year it was Derek. Who was key in the previous year's state championship wrestling team. Derek was not to be trifled with. Before the other mascot knew what was up, Derek had this kid by the arm and flung him clear across the whole logo. Our opponent's mascot wound up spread eagle in the mud in front of a packed stadium of high schoolers. I know he had a mask on, but I swear that doofy tiger's face looked surprised. We lost the game and the championship, but Derek graduated a legend. My dad told me this one. He was in the Marines at this time, sitting at a bar having a drink. This big biker guy walked in and walked up to this little guy just enjoying his drink. The biker picked up the little guy and pinned him against the wall by his collar. The little guy flipped his wrist and out of a spring-loaded holster popped a 2-shot Derringer. He put it to the biker's face. The biker tried to put him down. Little guy goes, "No. No. No. You put me down. You die." The biker held him there for 10-15 minutes then dropped the guy and booked it out the door. The little guy just went back to his drink. During college, Buddy and I went to a house party. Somewhere inside, my buddy accidentally bumps a guy and spills a bit of his beer. It's free. We are at a house party. Get more. The guy and his buddy start making a big deal of it with my buddy. One thing leads to another and they suggest going outside to fight about it. My buddy says sure, and starts walking out in front of them, with them trailing him. As he walks out the door, he pulls his shirt off over his head. As he does this, you can hear the two guys saying he's got wings. He's got effing wings. Full stop. They disappeared quite quickly. And just as well. He would have annihilated both of them. My buddy got into bodybuilding. Was even a male dancer. He was huge. And he was especially into his lats, the muscles just below your armpits. So he kind of did look like he had wings. What they didn't know is that he used to be a scrappy fighter in HS. My favorite story happened a few years back and was on the news. 3 gangster thug lowlifes broke into this guy's home, beat him and his son, then tied them up and went about their business. The father was able to get himself free, grabbed his shotgun, and shot all 3 thugs, killing 2 of them and only injuring the other. But this is where it gets even better. The state this happened in just passed a fresh new law stating that if you're committing a crime and anybody gets killed in the process, including any of your accomplices, then you are responsible for their deaths. So the last FCK boy who survived the shooting was charged with 2 counts of manslaughter and will never ever see the outside world again. Guess he won't be doing that shit again. My mom is a really short lady who is genuinely sweet and caring to everyone she ever meets, and the maddest I've ever seen her is like maybe a raised voice. She was out Christmas shopping and when walking in the parking lot a guy just snatches her purse. She immediately gave chase because her keys, credit cards, phone and quite a bit of shopping cash was in there and she was out of town. My mom chases the guy down for several blocks until he ducks into a motel. Well, My mom is not that stupid and doesn't run and start pounding on the door. She called the cops. Cops came and they ended up busting a 3-man purse snatching operation that had been going on all during shopping season. There were dozens of purses recovered along with hers. All 3 guys got sent to prison. My dad is this mild-mannered 5'4" Jewish therapist who wears glasses and dotes on his fluffy dog babies. One time, one of the relatives of a client of his came charging at us when we were eating ice cream, screaming that it was my dad's fault that his client was no longer in the relative's custody. Super abusive dude. Massive pose. And pulled the knife on me, a wee 5-year-old baby, and my dad went ballistic. When he was done, that dude had to end up walking with a cane. Because he didn't know my dad had not only served in the Marines, but he also had been a boxer in high school. Moral of the story: don't FCK with little Jewish men. Chances are, they know how to wipe the floor with you. Edit. My friend is a really nice guy but you really wouldn't want to cross him. He's mid-40s now and has a sort of Clint Eastwood in his prime vibe about him. We're both from London where we both knew some proper hard men, but live in a rural community now. So he was cycling home from work about 9:30 PM and a local drunk who mistakenly believes he is a kung fu expert leaps out from behind a parked car and knocks my friend flying off his bike. Apparently this is a mugging in the making. My friend kicks shitty out of the mugger. The next morning he goes to see the mugger's dad, who is a local tough guy. Local tough guy equals country bumpkin. I've met scarier grannies in London. He tells the dad he'll meet his son anywhere they like for a fair fight, but if the son goes near him or his family again they'll both pay a bad price. Nothing more was said. I was in New Orleans working after the storm and the only place for housing was in the French Quarter, so we were staying on St. Peter's Street about 1/2 block from Bourbon. It was like 7 AM on a Tuesday or something and we were waking up for work and smoking a cig drinking coffee on the balcony when we see 2 loud drunk frat guy type dudes walking one way down the street and 2 guys in drag walking the other. Frat guy starts mouthing something about dicks and in 1 second one of the guys in drag, a pink mini dress I remember, knocked the FCK out brutally, then kind of rearranges his dress and saunters off. It was one of those did I just see what I thought I saw moments. Drag queens do not FCK around. One of the most one-sided fights I've ever seen ended with a drag queen standing over the arsehole and snapping, "Your punk ass is lucky these heels are expensive or I'd be ramming Ossium right up your asshole." I was young. Roughly 10 I think. Out for an afternoon stroll with the dog. Since I was still fairly young, I wouldn't go far. Just up and down the block. While out with the dog I walk past a house towards the end of the block and hear a knocking. I turn to look, and there's a teenage boy standing at the window, buck naked, full helicoptering his dick at me. I leg it home, where my dad, a black belt with 2 red tips, was in the middle of teaching a class. We had a tatami set up in our garage. Close bracket. He sees me running back distraught, asks me what happened, and next thing I know my dad along with all 6 of his students, in full G's I might add, are storming down the road. Seeing this kid come to the door to all these angry men standing there in their full gear definitely makes me laugh as an adult. Red convertible flipped off a cement truck driver that had onboard water. He pushed a button in the cab and water shot out the side of the truck and hosed the convertible. Lol. Went to high school in the 90s. At the time, I'd say the general attitude towards gay people that they were okay in theory, but anybody who was out, or suspected to be, would be bullied. Note: I'm not saying this was my attitude, just the general attitude. Basically, they're fine. I just don't want them near me. We had this one kid. I don't know if he was actually gay, but if Hollywood from the movie Mannequin was a high school student in the 90s, it would be him. Despite what I just said about the general attitude of my school, this kid managed not to get any grief about it. Just whispers. One day, walking down the hall, he bumped into another kid. Accident. The other kid said something along the lines of "watch yourself, fart." The gay kid, or possibly not gay, said "excuse me?" in what sounded like 2 octaves below his normal voice, grabbed the other kid, and threw him into the window. It would have been through the window, but we had those windows that had chicken wire running through it, so it just sort of spider-webbed and dented. So I am walking down Little 5 Points in Atlanta and 2 leather boys coming trotting down the street hand in hand, right? A couple of frat boy rednecks sightseeing the freaks and punks and hippies and rasta guys in the neighborhood said something to the couple. Gay dude dressed in leather like a heavy metal lead singer just pushes his boyfriend back like, "No, let me take this," and punches the guy straight in the nose, flattened his face right off the bat, and his 2 buddies just stood there laughing at him. They all faced off for a second but walked off after that. A friend of mine in middle school saw this kid that wouldn't stop staring at him with a somewhat mad look. He started yelling at the kid, "Hell are you looking at?" The kid kept staring. After yelling at the kid for a few minutes, he walked over and got in the other kid's face. The kid stood up and my friend ended up pushing him. The kid then proceeded to give him, my friend, the best ass kicking he'd ever received in front of everyone on the school lunch yard. Come to find out, the kid was deaf. Couldn't hear him asking what he was looking at, and didn't know why he was yelling, motioning in an angry way. I made fun of my friend about it for a while. Got your ass kicked by a deaf kid. Johnny was born slow in mind. His dad enrolled him into martial arts the moment he could. 5-6 years old. Fast forward. Kid is 18. Special ed program in HS, getting a soda from the machine. Popular bully walks up and smacks the soda from his hand and takes his quarter change. Johnny picks up his soda and asks for his change back. Bully calls him derogatory mental challenge names. Repeat 3 more times while Johnny's asking for his change. Bully finally pushes Johnny and Johnny kicks Bully in the face, breaking his neck. They had to get a medevac helicopter to come land in the football field and fly him away. Bully is paralyzed for life, over $0. 25. Johnny got a hot date for homecoming and I got an F in my senior art project for putting the helicopter in the background of my outdoor scenic painting. I know all of this about Johnny because he was my best friend's neighbor. I read this as you FK'd the wrong person and had college flashbacks, lol. That raises several questions. Outside a bar, club is too strong a word. Big guy is chirping little guy. Little guy grabs big guy by the shirt and grounds him. Big guy tries some BJJT. And little guy just laughs at him. Little guy tells big guy to smarten up. Let's go. Straightens his clothes and goes back in. Everyone outside, except big guy, apparently, knew that little guy was a local hard man. From a family of hard men. And had been scrapping since he was in diapers. That girl who got an internship or some at NASA. Well, even if he wasn't the one responsible for her losing her internship, and even tried to get it back to her. I didn't witness it, but I had my son give me the pleasure of telling me the story. He has a lifelong friend who has an older brother and a single mom. Very nice family. Good, smart kids. For context, the mom is 5'2", 110 pounds soaking wet, and built like a 12-year-old boy. The sons are both built like Biggie Smalls. The 3 of them were in the kitchen when the boys were like 17 and 18 years old. And the older son started giving his mom some lip. She warned him several times to stop, but he just got more and more belligerent. Suddenly, mom springs into action and takes older son down. My son's friend loves his brother very much, and the brother was normally a really good kid, but he said it was the baddest ass thing he's ever seen. When my 6'6" nephew was just out of high school, he's 35 now, he sassed my 5'6" sister, a single mom. She put him through the screen door and made him pay for a new screen door. I remember me and a friend were stopped in the street late at night by a group of drunks who were looking for trouble. I can hold my own if I need to, but my friend has been a boxer since he was a kid. The night ended badly for them.